first press conference. Okay, and I guess we're getting some more information up here. We'll try that again. So welcome to the first conference of this first press conference of the IASLC 18th World Conference on Lung Cancer. And we, as you all know, have not formally started with a lot of the new data. So we're going to be highlighting some important aspects and work that IASLC has been doing. And to start off, we're going to have a welcome from our conference co-chairs. And of course, don't need much introduction. So Dr. Hisao Asamura, as well as Dr. Kunchil Park. And they're going to be talking a little bit about the conference and some of the things that are going to be highlighted, especially over the next 3 days.
Hello, and welcome to Yokohama. My name is Hisao Asamura. I am one of the co-presidents of 18th World Conference on Lung Cancer by IASLC. And
hi. Welcome everyone to join us here in Yokohama, Japan for 18th World Conference on Lung Cancer. It's great honor and a pleasure for us to have all here despite the bad weathers. Okay, so hopefully you could enjoy the most of Congress and most of the Yokohama as well. Thank you.
As Kencho says, this is maybe partly because of my bad behavior. But Wakely said that bad weather means the people must stay in this conference center. So it makes the conference much more fruitful. So I think now bad weather is a good sign. I'd like to show you some of the introductory comments on our meeting. As you know, the treatment and diagnosis, especially the treatment for lung cancer, is drastically changing in these recent few years. I am a surgeon. I am a little bit losing my territory in the lung cancer treatment. Instead, Kenchi is getting the new territory. But, as you know, new drugs, anti-PD-L1 antibody, or new molecular targeted drugs. And so, the IASLC has decided to this World Conference on Lung Cancer every year since 2015. This is the third time of annual meeting. This is only because the progress is so rapid. So I hope that this meeting can catch up the drastic and very fast progress in our treatment. Also, we encourage the patients to join us to make the treatment for lung cancer much more patient-oriented. Thank you. Can't you have comments?
Well, as Isao just mentioned, there has been quite a remarkable shift in the treatment paradigm, especially in advanced non-small cell lung cancer. But as you all know, there are several major pillars to fight against this dreadful and really bad guy, lung cancer. With the advancement of tumor biology and the better understanding of the some of the underlying genetic informations, we've made great progress during the past decade, but still there is a long way to go. But the bottom line here, you must remember, no one can do everything by himself or alone. We need really concentrated, integrated effort as a team. That's the theme of our conference here in Yokohama, synergy to conquer lung cancer. So here in Yokohama, at this World Lung Conference, you will see how is the integrated and comprehensive working is being done to conquer this bad guy, lung cancer, globally. So please keep tuned and stay all through the conference until the end of the, say, I think Wednesday afternoon, right? So the bad weather, as Hisao mentioned, will keep you inside the room, okay? So that will help you refresh and recharge it with the most recent update advancement in fighting against this lung cancer. Thanks.
Thank you both very much. So as we start off this exciting 3.5 days of scientific advances, and we reflect on what is IASLC, the International Association for the Study of Lung Cancer, many of us here are clinicians who look at it from the perspective of treating patients. But lung cancer and other thoracic malignancies, it's not just about treatment, it's also about trying to work on prevention. It's about the entire patient care experience, and it's not just physicians, it's all aspects of people involved in patient care. It's the nurses, it's the patient coordinators, the research coordinators, the patient navigators, the families, the patients themselves. And as IASLC has grown, we've grown not just from the physicians, but to include all of us who are involved together in trying to prevent and treat the disease. And so for today's press conference, as the scientific sessions will be starting tomorrow, we thought this would be a fabulous opportunity to highlight some of the work that IASLC has been doing in regards to other aspects of the patient experience and prevention. So talking a little bit about the prevention, talking about the patient care experience and some of the work that's being done by the nursing and advocacy groups, and also thinking about the ideas of mentorship. Some of the things that IASLC does is not just the specific interactions, but the interactions globally. And so we have a very engaged mentorship program of bringing care providers and physicians from around the world together to network at this conference. And so there are going to be 3 kind of areas that we focus on today. The first one is going to be talking about the IASLC Foundation Cancer Care Team Award. Then we will move on to discussing the Mentorship Award from IASLC, and then talking about the Nursing Immunotherapy Guidelines, which have going to be coming out, and hearing about the development of these. And so we hope that you will find, as we focus on some of the more diverse aspects of what IASLC does, that you'll get a flavor of the organization and the exciting things that are being done, in addition to all of the science that you'll be hearing more about over the next few days. So with that, I would like to welcome Jill Feldman, who's a lung cancer patient and activist from the United States. And she's going to be talking about the IASLC Foundation Cancer Care Team Award. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see if I can. There we go. Okay, that's me. First, I want to say thank you as a caregiver and as a patient to all of you for your dedication, hard work, and compassion to bettering the lives of patients with lung cancer. I say as both a caregiver and as a patient because I was a caregiver long before I became a patient. In the interest of time, I will keep my story short, but when I was 13, I lost 2 grandparents to lung cancer within weeks of each other, and then just 6 months later, my dad died of lung cancer. And then in my 20s, it didn't work. Oh, okay, sorry. And then in my 20s, both my mom and my close aunt died of lung cancer. Needless to say, I was devastated and I felt helpless. I needed to find some control. So I started doing advocacy work for Longevity Foundation in 2001, and I also began getting scans every few years. All was good until 2009. I was 39 years old. I had 4 small children, and I actually was president of Longevity at the time. So there just aren't words to describe how I felt when I was diagnosed with lung cancer, the same disease that I literally watched kill both my mom and my dad. I've been in and out of treatment for the past 8.5 years, and lung cancer will be a lifelong roller coaster ride for me. But because of a better understanding of the biology, because of advancements in research and treatment, and because of my dedicated, compassionate care team, we've been able to manage it as a chronic disease for now. With the science around lung cancer research continuously progressing, the International Association of the Study of Lung Cancer believes it's important to stay on top of the latest advances to provide the best outcomes to patients and their families. The IASLC Foundation is an integral part of this program and of this progression, and as it provides fellowships to researchers worldwide and aids their work in finding new ways to conquer lung cancer and other thoracic malignancies. The IASLC Foundation Cancer Care Team Award was proposed by Dr. Matthew Holman and his wife, Marilyn, who is a lung cancer survivor. Together, this new award was created to recognize and award outstanding patient care around the world. It aims to honor multidisciplinary care teams working together to provide the highest quality of care. Hearing the words, "you have lung cancer," is one of those things that you cannot understand unless you have experienced. But I will try to describe it a little bit. Imagine you are going about your everyday life and suddenly you are drop-kicked into a foreign country. You don't know the language, the culture is very different and unfamiliar. You don't know what's expected of you, and you don't have a mat, yet you need to figure out how to survive. Now imagine how overwhelming it would be to navigate the foreign territory yourself. On the flip side, imagine how different your experience would be if there was a team waiting to help you with all of the above. You know, there's so many buzzwords flying around like patient-centered care and shared decision-making, value-based care, etc. But what do they mean and what do they look like in a clinical setting? It's pretty simple. They mean putting patients in the center, not the middle. There's a difference. When patients are in the middle, they are forced to navigate a very fractured system and can fall through the cracks very easily. When patients are put in the center, care is organized around them. Patients need to know that they are being heard and they need to be involved in their care. None of this is not a new idea. There just happens to be ambiguity around the definition. So my team, I have had a relationship with my team dating back years long before I was a patient. And they have always put the patient in the center. There's a culture that exists. It's a philosophy of care that is reflected by all of the staff who all have the patient in the center. They treat the patient, not just the disease. Knowledge, experience, access to research and cutting-edge treatment, they're all important when looking for the best care. But so is having a team that believes that the patient's spirit, family, dignity, and goals are just as important. This is and has been for decades the culture of my care team. When I was diagnosed, my biggest fear was that my children would have to go through what I went through and lose a parent at a young age. So my team has always understood that my preferences for treatment had to be guided by the impact it would have on my family. And at times, that has meant not following the traditional approach or standard of care. And the care extends well beyond the clinic. My care team fights for me, and they fight with me. Lung cancer is their job, and it's a hard one. But beyond their profession, they act on their passion and sympathy to raise awareness for lung cancer. Despite watching the disease destroy and debilitate and take the lives of their loved ones and patients that they grow to love and care about, off the clock, still they advocate for us. To be able to maintain this dedication through so much devastation all these years is true compassion that cannot be learned. I can't emphasize enough that this kind of care changes and saves lives. I have had the chance that my parents didn't, and I am confident that I will be here for my children and important milestones for many years to come, in large part because of my care team. It takes a village, and a medical village is what patients need to help ease anxiety, establish trust, instill hope, and to survive. My hope is for all care teams to recognize the value of working together and developing the culture of that, like my care team. And I am really excited to be here to see my team win the award. When the nominations for the team awards were sent in to the IASLC Foundation, they were from patients or loved ones, and they shared heartfelt experiences and considered various elements of care. With roughly 50 nominations sent from all over the world, IASLC's prestigious panel decided on the following winners. And if there are people in the room from the continent, please stand. So from Asia, oh no, wrong one. Oh, I forgot the slide of my family, sorry. That's my family, my husband and 4 kids. That'd be horrible if I forgot them. They are what I live for. The most important. Okay, so the care team, if anyone's here from Asia and the rest of the world, please stand. Thank you. From Latin America, if anyone is here, will you please stand? And from North America, one of the team, this is my team, Dr. Bonomi and Mary Ellen are here to represent. Will you please stand? The other North America team, I believe Julie Bramer's here. Is Julie here to stand? From Johns Hopkins? No? Okay. So that's the other North America team. And then Europe. Thank you. As Patch Adams said, you treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, you win, no matter the outcome. Thank you and congratulations to all the winners.
Thank you, Jill. That was fabulous. And I think it's so important that we all sort of bring it back to the reality of what we're doing is really helping people living with cancer, trying to prevent people from getting lung cancer. And that was just a wonderful, heartfelt reminder to all of us. So thank you. And thank you to all of the care teams who won. I know that there were others who were nominated, and I think that many of us are, this is what we do day in and day out, is help people who are living with this disease. And so I think it's wonderful that we're highlighting that, and that was the first thing to lead off with our press conference. So thank you. Okay. We are now going to talk about one of the other really key aspects of what is done within IASLC, and that is mentorship. And so we are going to be hearing about the Mentorship Award, and I think, Fiona, were you going to be presenting? Yeah, so Professor Fiona Blackhall from the Christie NHS Foundation Trust for the United Kingdom is going to be talking a little bit more about this, and we have a few of the other mentors who are here today as well, including Professor Nirpralit.
Thank you very much, Heather, and good afternoon to you all. It's a real It's a real pleasure and a privilege to be here. I'm from Manchester in England and originally from Scotland, and so the weather here is making me feel very much at home. Thank you. So this time last year, I was very honoured to be mentor to Xiaomin Nu, who's currently a medical oncologist in training from Shanghai in China. And she met with me at the World Lung Conference in Vienna last year, spent her time in Vienna, and then joined me in Manchester for a week. In my institute also was Sandra Perdomo, and you can see her here. She is currently not a clinician, but a scientist involved in diagnostics for lung cancer from Columbia. And she was mentored by my colleague, a close colleague who was also a scientist, Professor Caroline Dive. And so Sandra and Xiaomin actually spent a lot of time together too. So the mentorship scheme is extremely important in connecting people at different stages in their careers and from different places. The benefits are observing clinical practice in a different country and the roles of different. Also in the clinic, communication skills and conversations essential for care of patients with all stages of cancer, but particularly advanced cancer. And in the 20 years or so during my time as a practicing oncologist, those communications have evolved such that now patients and their families and carers have and require much more detailed conversations about where they are and what to expect and what their goals of care are, agreeing that with their clinician and their care team. And that is a very much better place than 20 years ago when I started, when often the patients and their families were told very little about the nature of the disease and what to expect. And then female role models, very dear to my heart in medicine and in nursing, in the wider care team at different stages of their careers. And I think I probably speak for Heather too, that when we started, there were far fewer female role models than there are now. And so opportunity for me to mentor other women to be a female role model, extremely valuable. The mentorship scheme is also opportunity to learn about different cultures, visit new places, and to build in a little bit of relaxation for reflective thinking, some creative thought about what that mentee might like to do in their future career. So it was nearly Christmas time in the UK when Xiaomin and Sandra were with me, and they went off to London, saw the sights. Here where you can see our not quite as impressive Ferris wheel as the one that we have here, but they saw it nonetheless, and they do have the familiar umbrella to accompany them to cope with the weather. The mentorship scheme goes on after that one-week visit to the host institute and after the World Lung Conference. It is extremely important for research ideas to be published, available to the wider community, and some mentorship in writing and publication happened after the scheme for Sandra and Xiaomin, who joined me in writing this editorial, and the scheme also accelerated Xiaomin's progress in writing up some of her original scientific data. So the scheme gives opportunity to inspire the next generation of oncologists and cancer researchers, highlight areas of unmet need in lung cancer research, encourage and foster research collaboration, learn about different challenges, for me too, the challenges that Xiaomin and Sandra faced in their own countries and their own clinical and research environments, and collectively for all of us to motivate each other to pursue our goals in the pursuit of better treatment and outcomes for patients with lung cancer. It is quite a young program. It started in Denver in 2015, Vienna 2016, and now in Yokohama. And this year there are mentees from India, Pakistan, China, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Serbia, Thailand, and Argentina. So I think it is a very impressive program. And to date, 58 mentees have been mentored from 21 different developing countries. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Fiona. We will be the winners of this year's awards are going to be featured tomorrow in the business meeting, and you will also find them listed in the programs if you had more interest in following up with who the current mentees are. It's really one of the fabulous things that's being done by IASLC is it's helping to sort of foster the global awareness of what's being done in different countries as we all are working together to fight this disease. So thank you very much for that wonderful overview. All right, now we have one more formal presentation and then we're going to open things up for questions. So we're all here and staying so that you'll be able to ask lots of questions to finish up the time. But for first, we've got a wonderful presentation on our nursing immunotherapy guidelines. And this year, IASLC had expanded our board to now include nursing and allied health professional as one of the board members. Anne Fraser is going to be, has joined the board. She and Kim Rohan are going to be talking about the nursing immunotherapy guidelines. And Kim Rohan is from the Edward Cancer Centers in the United States, and Fraser is from the Auckland District Health Board of New Zealand. And this is the book for those who haven't seen it. So.
It's really a pleasure to be here to represent the Nursing and Allied Healthcare group of nurses and occupational therapists, respiratory therapists. It's really a multidisciplinary team. We met in Vienna last year and had a working meeting, and one of the goals of the meeting was to be able to have a first version of resource guidelines for people caring for patients who are receiving immunotherapy. So this is version 1. I have a few, if you have not seen them, to share. You may take a look at these. I know we shared them at the board meeting yesterday. So the immunotherapy guidelines were designed to help people who are caring for the patients receiving immunotherapy at the chair side in managing some of the unique side effects for this patient population that are very different than chemotherapy side effects or some of the other targeted therapies. The nice thing, we partnered with Plexus to help us kind of take our idea and put it into a nice format. There's nice tabs at the bottom for like hepatic, the GI for the different organ systems. And we've color-coded them, which I think is really nice for the green, yellow, and red. So green means you continue to treat through. Yellow, you maybe hold therapy. Red, you'd permanently discontinue therapy. So it's very intuitive, or we felt it was very intuitive. We did a limited distribution. As this is the first one, we would really welcome feedback on this. So if you do get the opportunity to review these and you do have feedback, which I'm embarrassed to say we looked at these 100 times and nowhere on here does it say immunotherapy. So I guess that's definitely one thing we will be changing. You know, you work on something for over a year and in your mind, you're like, it's logical that this is about immunotherapy, but nowhere on here do we have that, which it's in the inside, but so as much as you look at something over and over, I'm embarrassed to say that we didn't catch that one. But truly, I want to thank, it was truly an international approach. Various regions around the world took various sections of this and helped develop it. So we would welcome feedback. Our next goal will be to look at how we can get this in other languages, how to make this available for a wider distribution, most likely on the website, where people could actually go and print them off in their native language. So those are some of the goals that we have going forward with these guidelines. And we have committed to doing a yearly review and ensuring that they stay up to date and they're the most research-based, evidence-based guidelines for clinicians who are managing patients on immunotherapy.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to be opening this up now for questions. I want to highlight one thing here, which is the conference hashtag, and also to make you all aware that we do have a social media corner as part of the conference, and really trying to have a big presence in social media to make sure that others are aware of what's happening. As you all are the press, wanted to make sure you especially were aware of that, so please look for that. Now we have a half an hour or so for questions. This is a great opportunity for you to ask more about these particular programs, but you also have Professors Asamura and Park right here, our conference co-chairs, and I think they would be open to additional questions as well as to further about IASLC and the programs you've heard about today. So please feel free. All right, then I will start off with some. So I wanted to ask Fiona and also Professor Nir-Palit is one of the other people representing the mentorship program. How do you see this program growing in the future? And have you both been able to stay in communication with your former mentees?
Thank you, Heather, for this question. I think this is a wonderful program, actually, and it allows not only to engage on the personal basis, it really allows ongoing communication. And I think one of the surprises of this program is that it's not only has a contribution to the physicians who step into the new cancer center, it also contributes to the cancer center itself, because they are feeling that they are pioneering, sharing information, going into tiny finesses, and allows ongoing communication. And actually, we were in continuing communications. We are sharing some protocols, and also we are going to come up as well in some papers. So I think it's highly important. I think for the next few years, I think this program should be duplicated, but should be longer. I think 1 week is really tight. So I think it should be 2 to 3 weeks. So it would be a very important program, I think.
Okay, that's great feedback. Dr. Rakan.
Thank you. Karen Rakan, USA. Jill, thank you for sharing the story. It was amazing. And I think for other
Yeah, that's a good question. I know well, I'm a member of IASLC, so I saw the award online and I saw it through email. But for, I think, the patients who and their families who are not maybe on social media, if there was a way the hospitals could or the centers could send out an email to their patients or some way to let them know about the award, because I'm not sure how else you could reach everybody. And I think you would have received, I mean, way more, written nominations from different families or patients. So I think that would probably be the best
Especially
way.
thinking about the rest of the world who
That's
may not be as much on social media. Right.
Exactly, because otherwise it is limited mostly to those who are on social media.
And Jill, as far as the program's growing and the acknowledgement, what is going to be done from a more enduring materials to sort of help those caregiver teams that have won these awards sort of share some of their strategies and techniques for including the patient and their families more, to sort of share that knowledge? Obviously, this is a huge acknowledgement of all the work that so many people are doing centered around the patient, and how do we help to share that guidance with others, especially given challenges that we would be finding in different places. I mean, we all have our different challenges, but to really acknowledge that and be able to share more.
Yes, and I believe a lot of the advocacy organizations are trying to do that. I know I've been involved in a few committees trying to reach out to the unreachable, because most of us who are involved in advocacy, we aren't necessarily the patients that need to be reached. I mean, we have found the resources and we're very fortunate. So we're really, I think it's important to try to get out there to not only the patients, but also the healthcare teams, and let them know as well. I mean, I think it's important, depending on a system. Some systems run smoothly, and that's great, but there are the ones out there that are fractured systems, and maybe helping them to be able to, work more collaboratively as a team.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I see we have a question. One of our speakers, Dr. Ross Kamage, is so involved in so many different aspects of IASLC, he actually had a concurrent session, and so he is now here and would like to be able to give his talk. And so I believe we have those, and we're going to skip over to Dr. Kamage, and then we'll come back to your question.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you for being flexible.
Do you want to give us one of your talks from tomorrow?
Sure.
No? Okay.
You want to do that, like a sneak peek? So my mentee, Shenzhen Harry Ren, unfortunately twisted his ankle, so he's still in Denver whilst I'm in Yokohama. But it's been a great relationship. So this is between Shanghai and Denver, and it started back in the World Conference on Lung Cancer in Denver in 2015. So this is Harry here, and these are my two other fellows, and these two are my kids, and these are Vignesh's kids. And so Harry just came for 2 weeks, and there's not a lot you can achieve in 2 weeks other than the beginning of a relationship. And the great thing about Harry is he was very persistent about saying this is the beginning of something. And when he went back to Shanghai, we continued to collaborate both in terms of research and even in patients, which I'm going to show you. So Harry had a case of somebody who he was convinced may have an oncogenic driver, and this was in the early days of ALK, and he actually sent the specimen from Shanghai to Denver, and then we did a variety of testing and found that they were an atypical FISH negative, but positive by other means. And then the patient, who was financially quite well-resourced, actually flew to Denver to go on a clinical trial. And that was the beginning of a very small world going on. Harry then actually won one of the IASLC Fellowship Awards and has now started in Denver for really a 2-year period. So he's doing some lab work with Fred Hirsch, and then he comes and observes me and is actively involved in a number of projects in the clinic. And these are Harry's slides. And at the bottom, what he describes as the win-win situation is collaborating with Western advances in science and just the patient numbers that are going on in China and how that's really a win-win situation. And this, I think, is my last slide, just to show you it in real world and how it can impact the patients in the clinic. So a few years ago, we set up something called a remote second opinion program. So a patient from anywhere in the country or the world can phone up and speak to one of our members, and we have all the notes and the scans. And we've done it for 34 different states and 17 countries. And Harry was instrumental in actually us doing it for the very first Chinese patient from Shanghai. So we did it with a translator. We found a clinical trial, one located in Taiwan, one located in Hong Kong, introduced them to the relevant person, and that patient is now going on a clinical trial. And so this concept that this mentorship doesn't just lead to research opportunities, but actually to direct benefit of patients across the very small world that we now live in. Thank you. I'll give you your podium back in a second. I'm just getting, I got my talks with tomorrow.
Great, thank you. So again, that was fabulous because I think it helped kind of link in everything. So we started off discussing the patient experience, patient caregiver experience. We talked about the mentorship program and how that's so helpful for development of career. We've also talked about how we've been bringing with the nursing and allied health more guidelines for sort of management of particular issues that have come up more and more now that we're dealing with immune therapy and guidelines for managing that. And now with the mentorship program, also talking about that in the aspect of patient care. And so it really all links together, sort of highlighting a lot of what IASLC has been doing. So now we are back to questions, and I believe you had one, so.
Jahanzeb from Florida. I've been promoted to the front microphone now.
Oh, right. See? It's worth waiting.
Yes. My question is to Kimberly. It's wonderful that you have put together this booklet about immunotherapy and toxicity. I believe now that our patients are living longer and longer, toxicity management becomes even more important for their quality of life. So do you have plans to keep on going and have a similar one for tyrosine kinase inhibitors and other agents that people are using? Because patients on TKIs are also going to have very long survival, especially the ALK, which was a wonderful session, by the way, Dr. Kemich, that ALK session.
We met yesterday. That wasn't one of the things, but I will definitely take it back to the group. I think one of the things we're trying to figure out is how we can help allied healthcare professionals around the world through maybe developing some webinars and things like that from lectures that maybe happen here or at other conferences. Very similar how IASLC does it now for the the physician. There's different webinars. So expanding that to nursing and allied healthcare professionals, and that would be a really good topic. So I'll make sure that that goes back to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
Nagla Karim, University of Cincinnati, USA. I was wondering about the mentor-mentee program, if it's something that could be expanded more, like put also on social media so more people can participate. I think that that will be so good because networking, especially amongst us and younger physicians, I think is really, really important.
That's a great suggestion. I think that we are all very much hoping that many of the younger investigators are, as they're more involved in social media than some of us. I think that that's really a key thing, what you're bringing up, and to, I think, allow for that networking amongst the more junior investigators, but as ways then to link into the more senior. And I think that the group, we can certainly bring that back and talk more about and how that would work, and I'll get in touch with you about that. It's a great suggestion. All right. Other questions? Okay, then we'll bring up some other things. I guess we could, I'm going to ask Professor Asamura and Park to talk about what are some of the key scientific sessions that you are looking forward to in the next few days.
Well, as you may already aware by now, this is, again, really comprehensive and integrated platform, scientific platform amongst the various disciplines involving in thoracic oncology, not just limited to lung cancer, but some other thoracic malignancies, including mesothelioma, thymic neoplasm, and some other neoplasms as well. So basically, we have quite 3.5-day long scientific sessions comprising 4 plenary sessions and more than 20 educational, the symposiums and educational sessions, and more than 30 meet the expert sessions. So which is quite similar to the previous ones, but I'd like to, if I can make some comments on our recent on this year's program, I'd like to draw your attention to some of the pros and cons and grand round sessions, which are more or less mimicking the real clinical, real-world scenario, real-world setting. So it could be more interactive, and it's not going to be unidirectional didactic lecture style session. So if you're more interested in the real-world clinical practice changing scenario or stories, then maybe very good sessions. You're going to, you are recommended to join and involved. And some other, of course, educational sessions are also very, helpful. It has a lot of very, updated sessions in terms of immuno-oncology as well as target therapies. And there are several other symposia and oral or mini-oral sessions which are, the new discoveries and new informations are being presented by a variety of groups. We have, for this year's World Conference, there's almost 2,000 abstracts submitted. So there will be several hundreds will be presented either by oral or mini sessions, including, say, I would say there are 17 tracks in categories. So there are various sessions you are interested in. So you may look into our program and then select which one to enjoy. But most of the times, I would just like to mention that there are increasing information and update, especially on the immuno-oncology and newly discovered, target therapy areas. So that's going to be some of the highlighted sessions. Yeah.
Also, my recognition is that taking the samples before starting the treatment is getting more and more important in these days. For this purpose, we must have some technique to getting enough sample by bronchoscopy or fine needle biopsy, so on and so on. That is the reason why we divide hands-on session for 1 day, yes. And Dr. Yasufuku at Toronto is in charge of this divided hands-on. I think it might be getting more and more important in near future to keep up with the new paradigm shift of the treatment modality.
Well, and if I add my comments, I'd ask some of our key opinion leaders, global opinion leaders, when it is being held in Asia-Pacific areas, we have some difficulty in inviting some experts in patient advocacy or some other supportive care groups, because, you know, in general, compared with the Western hemispheres, Asian Pacific areas are a little lagging behind, especially in that aspects of patient care. So if possible, so, you know, it will be, the World Lung will be held annually from now on. So in 3 years, it's going to be in Singapore. So I'm a little worried about that they may experience the same experience as we did during the past year while preparing this Guam conference. So we'd like to ask the leading experts in the area of patient advocacy and prevention, or I mean supportive care, please help us to get better care in that areas. Yeah.
Are there anybody from the audience inspired by that to ask something else? Okay. Then I wanted to ask Jill then, I think, in following up with Dr. Park's comment. So you were here really focusing on highlighting this new recognition of the care teams, but obviously as a very well-known patient advocate who's done some tremendous work, since we have you here to talk about that, and following up with what Dr. Park had said, what sort of outreach has been possible here? I mean, I assume that there's a lot of, I was really impressed looking through the program about how many sessions are focused on advocacy and hearing the patient voice and really changing our mindset as to what really we want to be focusing on at the meetings. But from that also, I think it's interesting. I mean, looking at it from the U.S. perspective, I think we've made a lot of strides in the last 10 years as really being aware of that. And I think it highlights that maybe in parts of the rest of the world that is a little bit lagging behind. And so within IASLC and within this forum of a world conference, how do you see us being able to move forward and really raising the voices of the patients and advocates to the forefront even more?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in the past 10 years, definitely what has helped within, the United States, like you say, is social media. I remember when, I was first started in 2001, it was like you could email, and that was about the only way to get in touch with people, or you could Google, and there wasn't much back then. There wasn't a lung cancer community, really, or support groups or walks. So we really have come a long way in that respect. So social media has really helped, but I really believe, too, a big part of it is the care team. Mm-hmm. So there have been, I know that my care team and other care teams within the United States, when you have a patient who's diagnosed, you can direct your patient to certain resources. And now with websites and online stuff, you can really, I mean, I'm the most familiar with longevity because I've been involved in it forever, but for instance, longevity has a lifeline where when somebody's newly diagnosed, if someone on the care team could direct them to that lifeline, they could be matched with, and it doesn't matter where in the world the person is, they can be matched with somebody who has a similar diagnosis, maybe same age, same type, same stage, all of that. So they could really connect with somebody who's been there, who has experienced it. Definitely, I mean, it's great to have social workers, but sometimes you really just want to talk to somebody who's in the trenches with you. And that's been great. They have that for caregivers as well. I mean, I've been on both sides, and being the caregiver is a lot harder in so many ways than being the patient. So I think, you know, we lose sight of, when we're focusing on the patient, we lose sight of the caregivers. So there's a lifeline for that. Different groups have on their different websites, the advocacy groups, they have all sorts of resources in terms of, you know, like dictionaries so that patients and caregivers can understand, you know, what the language is. Like I said, you know, you get thrown into this, you don't know the language, and those things can be translated into different languages. So it doesn't just have to be English. One of the greatest opportunities too actually go longevity. Again, I know the most about longevity, but the other organizations have great stuff too, is every year there's a National Hope Summit in DC, and 7 years ago there were 17 people. Just this past year, there were 300 caregivers and patients. I would say about 125 caregivers. The rest were patients. There were people that were there from not a ton, but from all over the world. So if we could get, you know, work with the advocacy organizations, I would really, and all of them would be willing to work with anybody, any, you know, care center from all over the world in any way that they can. And I think it's a matter of somehow, you know, IASLC providing those resources for different care centers to reach out to, and then that way you could get the word out about that, because it is important. I mean, I say within the United States, reaching the unreachable, but around the world, if it's not as developed, it is truly life-changing. And some of these summits that I've been to, I've seen patients walk in or come in and they're sitting down and they have nothing but fear and hopelessness on their face. And by the end of the weekend, it's like inflating a balloon. And that changes a patient mentally and emotionally, and truly patients do better when they're connected with others. Another great way to participate, and I know time zones can be an issue, but every other Thursday night, there's a lung cancer social media chat, hashtag LCSM. And depending on what time it would be in, you know, the country someone's in, if there was somebody to participate in that, that is everywhere from industry to advocacy organizations to patients to doctors to nurses, and it is a great platform, a really great platform. So there's a lot of different ways, but definitely get in touch with the organizations.
Thank you very much. Did with the conference co-chairs, with anything else that you wanted to add? No? Okay. Well, with that, I think we'll close this. I'm going to again bring you to the attention of the hashtag, the WCLC 2017. Please be aware that we will have daily press conferences. They will be highlighting the top science that's coming out each day with opportunities to speak to the presenters and ask your questions. And I thank you all for coming today, as we were able to highlight some of the other really exciting programs that IASLC has been working on and awards. So thank you all very much. Oh, wait, Dr. Asamura.
Yeah, only one thing. Today we will have an opening ceremony, and it is a privilege that His Imperial Highness Crown Prince will come. For the security reasons, it is when he is in the hall is locked. You cannot enter and go out. So please be punctual to show up at the opening ceremony. Thank you.